When your playing career ended, Coach Green took you aside and encouraged you to think about being a coach, and from that point you held roles under him and Mike Tice. What did you enjoy and not enjoy about being an NFL coach?
Well, the only thing, the time commitment is something you can't enjoy because, I always say that family comes first. Well, when you're coaching, it's not the case. I mean, your job comes first. And any coach, they can say what they want about family first, but it's not the case. The time commitment, the stress, all that stuff is very, very, it's a whole nother level. And I mean, when you're working 16 to 18 hours a day, sometimes sleeping in your office, I mean, it's, unfortunately for coaching, perception is reality. Mm-hmm. And, if ownership or whatever perceives that you guys are working real hard, then they think you're working real hard. But it's not about working hard. It's about winning football games. And, you can't just, as a coach, you can't, unless, you can't leave an office at 10 o'clock at night after you lose 2 games in a row. Mm-hmm. Because if you lose number 3, then, what's the impression going to be? So you're not saying you're worried about the wrong thing. Right. And I really... I think it'd be beneficial for ownership and for coaches if they could just all step back and kind of realize that and say, you know what, like Denny Green would say, if you don't know what you're doing by 10 o'clock at night, you don't know what you're doing. And I think that's a mentality that is healthy in coaching, but it's just not the case. It's all perceived as, how long can you work? Can you work? If you could work, if there were 8 days in a week, these guys would work, another day. They would spend another 20. Because you can always watch one more cut up. You can always watch one more of this. You can always do one more of that. Your work is never, ever, ever done.
The Bears are who we thought they were. That's why we took the damn field. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. But they are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
From both a player's and a coach's perspective, what do you think the main reasons were that Mike Tice failed as a head coach?
I don't know. I don't necessarily think Mike failed. Yeah. I mean, I think that's, to go 9-7 our last year with the team that we had and overcome all the things that we had to overcome throughout the course of that season. I think we did a pretty damn good job. And, so I don't necessarily think Mike's stint, if you define it as a failure because he got fired, so be it. But I don't necessarily think that, do we make mistakes along the way? Of course you do. But I think that when it's all said and done and you get as much as you can out of the people that you have, and I think we did that. And I know throughout the course of the season, right at the end of that season when we got let go, talking to Ron Rivera, and Ron was saying that, you guys have done one of the best coaching jobs in the league, going through all the controversy and everything else and still coming out with a winning record was impressive. You can't make, chicken salad out of chicken, what.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what coaches sometimes say.
Well, and a lot of people have said, Mike Tice did more record-wise with the talent that he had than Brad Childress did with a lot better talent the first couple of years he was
there. You could say that. I mean, I don't, the one thing that I think you can fairly say is that Brad had a lot more in the way of resources, period. Than Mike Tice ever had or that we ever had, but it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're a coach, you take the job. It is what it is. If you can't afford to go out and get help at free agency, then you better have a hell of a draft. I mean, so again, I'm not, I don't think we have any excuses, so to speak. It's not that we, as a coach, you always want to have more talented players, but no one can have market cornered on talent. I mean, you've got to do the best you can with what you have, and I really think that we did that. And was it good enough? No, it wasn't, and we all got let go, so it is what it is. But I do not think that Mike was a failure at head coach.
So yeah, been the leader on the field, the intensity that he brings to the table. Dante Culpepper.
After your stint as a coach, Brad Childress obviously came in and brought his own staff in, and you became the color analyst on the Viking game day broadcast. How'd the opportunity arise, and what do you like about that role?
The whole opportunity arose because of Joe Sensor deciding to resign. I think Joe, for a number of reasons, had enough of the weekend traveling and all that kind of thing. And the opportunity was there. I know after there was one season in 2006 when I wasn't playing and I wasn't coaching. I did some work with the radio, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, being on the radio, I for whatever reason, it was something that I wanted to do. I mean, it was fun, and I think I'm uniquely qualified to do what I do. And I'll say this on a day-to-day basis as an analyst. I mean, 90% of what I do is really the coaching side of things. I don't think I could do the job the way I do it if I hadn't had that experience as a coach. Because as a player, you have a certain perception, you know certain things, but most of what goes on is coaching, evaluating talent, those kinds of things. And so I couldn't do what I do now if it wasn't for my experiences as a coach.
And that's our benefit today talking to you is what we want to do is take that expertise you have from being a coach and a player and pick your brain about some key areas of the 2013 season as well as some of the players. And the first thing we wanted to ask you about is, as you watched the games last season, what were the key things that you believe dampened the Viking passing game? Was it a quarterback issue, wide receivers, or maybe even a scheme of the offensive coordinator, Bill Musgrave?
I think again, at wide receiver with Jerome Simpson not being healthy, you didn't have the talent there. Percy Harvin wasn't healthy, for half that season, so you're missing two of your top three wide receivers, and that's going to hurt any passing game, period. Plus, Adrian Peterson was performing so well the last 10 games of the season, you had to keep getting him the football. You know what I mean? Does Ponder need to improve? Of course. I mean, any young quarterback needs to improve. I mean, I think I can fairly look at him and say his challenge is going to be, getting the ball deep into the outside. I mean, the fades, the deep routes, the deep comebacks, the timing, the back of the hip kind of fades that teams can throw. I mean, all these routes that beat 8 guys in the box is what's going to be needed. And, for Greg Jennings to come to Minnesota, he knows that he's going to be one-on-one on the outside a vast majority of the time because people are going to be more worried about stopping Adrian than they are about him. So I know that's what gets him excited. Now you just got to find ways to get him the football. You know what I'm saying? So for Ponder, again, I still think he needs to stay healthy. I know he made it through the whole season, but he missed the most important game of the year. He got hurt on a throw that he never should have made in the first place. So he's got to stay healthy. Christian Ponder has to, number one, above and beyond all things, is to stay healthy. And if he wants to take it to the next level, he's got to figure out that outside passing game. And I mean, all the passes that occur outside of the numbers, between the numbers and the sideline. If he can start making those throws and completing those passes, then I think he'll have a very, very good year.
It's funny. There's a lot of the analysts say, Christian Ponder's a really bright guy, and then they go on to say, but he thinks too much on the field. It's kind of an interesting concept. I'm curious, as you watch him on the field, does he do a good job of scanning for second and third receiver choices?
Yeah, it's hard to speculate on, so to speak. I mean, you would like to see as he matures and grows, gets better to make better decisions before the ball's even snapped. I mean, that's where Brett Favre was just so good. I mean, he could walk up to the line of scrimmage. There's not a defense or a scheme that he hadn't seen, not only in his years before, but maybe 100 times on film going into the game, to step up and know exactly what to do with football before the ball is even snapped. And I think that's the comfort, and that's what Christian has to learn. I think one of the things that works against Christian, and it worked against a lot of the quarterbacks that played with Randy, is you have a game-changing offensive weapon, whether it be Randy Moss or Adrian Peterson. Watching film isn't as productive as it would be if you didn't have Adrian. And by that I mean you're going to get defenses you haven't seen from teams when they play us because of the fact that 28's in the backfield. You see what I mean? They're going to have 8 guys in the box, 9 guys in the box. They may play the 4-man front, or 5-man front, even though they've only shown 4 for 6 weeks in a row. So for Christian, he's always going to have that cog in the wheel. I don't even want to say it, that expectation where when he gets to the line of scrimmage, he's going to probably see something new, something that he hasn't seen. And so he's going to have to learn about it, deal with it, and make adjustments. So I've seen it myself. I've seen teams that play a 4-man front and they play Adrian, and they got all of a sudden they have an extra D lineman on the field or whatever. I mean, Adrian Peterson's going to change what defenses do. And so for Christian, he's going to have to, study, learn, and realize what defenses are trying to do, and then go about his business and attacking them and making them pay for putting too many people in the box to stop Adrian.
And you mentioned Jerome Simpson earlier. I mean, who is the real Jerome Simpson? Is he the guy who made the circus catches in preseason last year, or the player we saw in regular season, or something in between?
I don't know. The one thing that, I think for Jerome, he's a guy that I hope understands that, and I've never spoken with him really. I've never had a chance to meet him, but I hope he understands the opportunity that he has, because he's going into the season not being the number one threat on the offense, which is Adrian, not the number 2 threat, which is Greg Jennings, and maybe not even the number 3 threat, which might be the tight ends. It might be Kyle Rudolph. So he's going to see not only one-on-one coverage, but he may see one-on-one coverage with the safety pushed over to help on Greg Jennings. I mean, whoever's the number 2 or number 3 receiver for this club this year is going to have an unbelievable opportunity. He's going to see opportunities on the field from a coverage standpoint that nobody else in the league is going to be able to see. And so if he's not excited about going into this year and the possibilities of what he can do or what can happen, then he's crazy. And that's why, you look at the rookies and guys that we drafted and the opportunity for somebody on that side of the field away from Greg Jennings, away from AP, oh my God, you're going to be able to just go out there and be in space and do your thing. And so, whatever he is or who he is, I don't know. We don't know yet. But he better stay healthy, and he needs to really understand that he can have an unbelievable season if he goes out there and takes care of business.
One of the other receivers, Jarius Wright, do you see him as more of a situational or gadget player, or can he contribute as a third wide receiver option?
It depends on how much he grows in the offseason. I mean, I think he's made some big plays in games, and that's key, because now you know that he can go out there and do it. That he's not going to just go out there under the big lights and just panic or so to speak. So for a guy like Jarius, his preseason is key, because he needs to come in with Matt Castle if he's the number 2 or on the second team and conduct himself as if he's a starting wide receiver and as if he's a number 1 receiver, so to speak. So he's going to have a veteran throwing the football to him. So he needs to have a really good preseason and build upon what he did last year. Getting him snaps, it's just nice for a guy like George Stewart to have one more guy that he can put in the trust. So, for him, again, the sky's the limit, so to speak. I mean, somebody's going to step in at that number 2, number 3 position and I think really have a good season. It's just a matter of who's it going to be. Is it going to be Simpson? Is it going to be Jarius Wright? Is it going to be the rookie? Who's it going to be? Yeah. And, like I said, if I could walk into George Stewart's meeting for 5 minutes, I'd be like, listen, guys, whoever's playing right here can have an unbelievable year. And it's just a matter of who wants it.
It's comforting from a fan's perspective of it. It seems at least we have more choices this year. Last year, you just wondered if anybody would step up, so this is a good situation.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have you're going into the season, before the first, ball is snapped, before the first whistle is blown, you have a lot more options at that position than you did a year ago. Yeah, you lost Percy Harvin, but as far as pure number of options, you have more this year, and that's a good thing.
Have you ever wondered, Pete, why the Vikings don't devise a scheme that allows Adrian Peterson and Toby Gerhart to be on the field at the same time?
Not really, because, if Adrian's not on the field, then Toby's going to have to be a blocker, and that's not, I don't think that's his cup of tea,
okay,
so to speak. And I think for Toby, he needs to build an identity as to what he can do well. Again, it goes to if Toby's at fullback or at a different spot, what's he going to do well? I think for Toby, if he really wants to contribute a lot of time, his ability to block on third down, to understand schemes, to pick up protections, to handle that mental load, so to speak, on the third down from a schematic standpoint, and then catch the ball out of the backfield and move some chains. I think that's where Toby can can really, really help. So, but as far as getting them both on the field at the same time, I really don't think that's going to change much because no one's going to care about Toby. Everyone's going to be worried about 28.
From an offensive coordinator standpoint, what does Bill Musgrave need to do differently in 2013 to make the offense both more explosive and less predictable?
You know, it worked out all right, even though we were predictable. I mean, everybody knows 28's going to get the ball, and good luck stopping them. And that's what scares the living hell out of coordinators, defensive coordinators. You look at the touchdown run that Adrian had against Green Bay when it was 3rd and short. There were 4 or 5 Packers that had chances to tackle him, and they just didn't. And as a coordinator, all you can do is get guys to be in a position to make a play. And if they don't make the play, I mean, what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do. You just continue, and you have to manage Adrian. You have to just make sure that he's not getting too much, not getting too little, and then, build off of it. And for any offensive coordinator, he's going to have to see what talent he has besides the running back. I mean, what's Greg Jennings going to add? How's the offensive line going to play out? And then really tailor a scheme behind that. Because that's the difference between college and the NFL. In college, you have a scheme and a system, and you have enough players where this is a system, we just got to find out who fits into it. In the NFL, you got to find out who your players are, what their talents are, and then build a scheme around it. So, for Bill, he spent a lot of last year trying to find creative ways of getting Percy Harvin the ball. Because Percy Harvin was not a standard route receiver, so to speak. He didn't run routes. He was a gadget guy. He was an underneath guy, reverse guy. So he spent a lot of time being creative and finding ways to get Percy the ball. I think that pressure's off, so I think he can get more into the scheme of his offense, so to speak.
Peterson's come out, and I'm sure you've seen the articles that says, his goal is 2,500 yards this year. 2 questions for you. If he were to get 2,500 yards, is that a good thing for the Vikings, or have they gone much more to a one-dimensional offense? And second of all, would the coaches be wise to kind of take him aside and say, hey, we'd be better off to have you get 1,500 yards and try to have a more balanced offense?
I know for Adrian, it's at this stage of his career, he's getting closer to 10 years. It's about a legacy now. It's about winning games and whatever you got to do to win football games. And so, for him, I'm not going to ever say that kid can't do something. If he thinks he can do it, he's one guy in the league that you're not going to sit there and just kind of shrug it off or say, he's a big mouth, or, you know what I'm saying? I mean, when Ray Edwards said he was going to get 23 sacks, I mean, people, laughed at him, and, Dan, the cameraman, Cole, just railed on him for weeks at a time. But when Adrian steps up and says something like that, you kind of just go, okay, he can do it, and just let him, go. I'm just going to sit back and watch you try and enjoy every minute of it, So, you can't go to the well too many times, I don't think. I mean, and for Adrian, you look at how he ended the season, and you wonder if that had something to do with his off season. I mean, he couldn't work out like he normally did. He had a lot more rehab. So you're concerned maybe he's been working too much.
I get tired just reading about his exercise regimen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's a freak. He's a once in a decade kind of a player. Freak, and I'm just glad he's wearing purple.
When you go to your old linebacker position, there's going to be an interesting competition at the middle linebacker spot between Erin Henderson and Desmond Bishop. Do you see Erin Henderson as having the right skill set to be the starting middle linebacker in the Viking defense?
I think Erin, I don't know. You have to see how he makes that transition, because some guys can make it and some guys can't. And it's a mental thing more than physical. Because when you play on the edge, it's a little bit easier for your fits. It's a little bit easier because everything kind of comes in one way. When you're playing in the middle, you've got to get over the center. You've got to play on both sides of the field. You have to. It's a different atmosphere. You're usually calling the huddle. You have a lot more responsibility in that respect. You're calling all the checks. You're making all the adjustments. Whereas before, you just kind of reacted to them. So we'll see how that goes from a physical standpoint. Our linebackers do not take on blocks. they're not with the scheme. It's kind of like the Tampa 2 system where they're really just running inside out to the football, which is fine. So I think you can, by definition, get away with somebody who's a little more undersized. You don't need a 255-pound guy in the middle, so to speak. But for Aaron, his ability to help on third down is going to be there. So I in that respect, I see him in his ability to operate in space. He's not as good as Greenway is in space, but I think that he could be a nickel Mike linebacker and then an outside linebacker on base. I think that would be, in my opinion, the best thing for his skill set. Can he play Mike and make it a Mike linebacker? We'll see. We'll see.
It'll be an interesting competition in camp to watch between you and
yeah,
Bishop.
It'll be one of the few competitions that are out there, really. One of the few.
Well, an interesting position that's kind of up in the air, really, for this season going into next season is defensive end. And we've got 3 guys whose contracts expire this year. What's your opinion on who will be back with the Vikings in 2014? And I know it's always based on performance, but, based upon the way Rick Spielman builds the team, what is your opinion on what that position looks like next year?
I really think they'll want to have, all of those guys back. I really don't think that there's a situation where you want to get rid of any of them. Brian Robinson is slowly grown into a very good pass rusher, but keep in mind that Brian has earned his way out there. I mean, he started as a third down interior pass rusher and made his way out to being the starting left defensive end. So Brian's done a nice job cementing himself there, and defensive line has become a position where it's become very specialized, and you might have a first and second down nose tackle and 3 technique, and then on fourth down or on third down, you're going to put in guys that can rush the passer. They don't have to be as good against the run, and so you can find those guys. But again, I think that the Vikings will want to have all 3 of them back, but are you going to have enough money? You don't want to expend the resources, and the market will let you know what the contracts can bear. And if we get out of the season and they can financially work out all 3 of them coming back, I think they will.
Pete, it's interesting that you talked about Brian Robinson, because our website has adopted him as the current Viking that we follow most closely, because we've gotten to know some of his family who post on the VikeFans.com site on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Brian, I just want people to understand that Brian has earned and what he's done to earn his spot where he is. I mean, he wasn't, anointed that left defensive end spot. He won that by being a very good interior pass rusher on third down. He had 2 decisions. He had a decision to make. He could have been like, no, I want to play defensive end. This sucks, and I want to do this. But he didn't. He came out and he worked his ass off and proved that he can get things done as a pass rusher on third down. And then when he got his chance to play left defensive end, he kept it. So Brian's worked his way, and he's earned the right to play that position, which is great. He's a hell of a good kid, and you want to see a guy like him succeed.
What's the one thing you think head coach Leslie Frazier needs to improve upon in 2013 for the Vikings to be successful?
I don't know. I mean, I think the key for him last year was the loss that the Vikings had at Green Bay. And I remember, because in Green Bay, I don't go in the locker room after the games, but we have to there. You have to walk through on your way out. And just talking to some people, coming in and out and everything, there was, the players were frustrated. They were not happy. They were pissed off, which they should be, because they didn't look good and they lost. But after the game, Leslie, I wasn't there. I don't know the exact words, but Leslie basically said there's a lot of good going out. There's a lot of good going on out there. There's a lot of good things, and he's very positive. And he's very positive about the Packers. He's very positive about the Vikings. And I think the players were frustrated because they wanted to hear him go nuts. They wanted to hear him lose his mind and just rail and get pissed. And, because they expected him to feel the same way. And it wasn't until later in the season when they went down to Texas and beat a good Texans football team, it was the best game I think the Vikings played all year, that they realized that maybe this head coach that we have knows more about this game than we do. And I really think that for for Leslie cementing himself as a head coach and earning the respect of the players. Because the play, when like with Denny Green, we trusted him completely. When he said something, we trusted him because we knew he knew what he was talking about. And I think that game and how he handled himself after that game, and him being so positive and saying that this is a good football team, we're going to be good, things are turning around at a time when no one else in that locker room felt that way, that resonates with people. So now I think Leslie has, really, not, I hate to use the word won over, but I think that he's gained the faith and trust of the players when he speaks and comes down and says something about that club. They're going to believe him more so than they're going to believe themselves. And that's huge and that's key. So I think Leslie is going to be in for a very good year.
And Pete, the final portion of our conversation today is a rapid fire session where I'll give you a name or a thought and you can reply with a one word or one sentence response. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. Your preference.
Lay it on me.
Your preference, player, coach, or broadcast analyst?
Oh my God. Player because of the paychecks.
Okay. The new Viking Stadium.
Judging from what it looks like, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be unique and amazing.
Brad Childress.
I don't know. He was the right guy at the right time.
Okay. Brett Favre.
One hell of a good football player.
Robert Smith.
Juice. A great man and a great friend.
Jerry Ball.
Jerry Ball. Oh my God. Let's just put a personality as big as his waistline.
Okay. Domes or open air stadiums?
Boy, doesn't matter either.
Okay. Red McCombs.
I would say Red is he's a businessman and a very good one.
Okay. Ziggy Wilf.
Ziggy Wilf, I think, with Ziggy, oh my God, how would I say it? He has a passion for football that very few people have. He's so passionate about football.
Okay. Paul Allen.
Paul Allen. Paul Allen. Let's just say I would call him larger than life.
Okay.
Handoff, Adrian up the middle, room to the 20, cuts to the left to the 25, and Adrian's loose! He splits the defense! 50, 40, 30, goodbye, baby! Touchdown! That's an 82-yard touchdown by Adrian Peterson, matching the longest of his career.
Well, Pete, I appreciate it. That's all the questions we had for you today, and we do appreciate you taking the time to share your Viking memories and for your playing and your coaching days, as well as your insights on the 2013 squad. And
no problem.
As we close, did you have any final thoughts for the VikingFans.com community?
I mean, just other than to thank them. I mean, I think Viking fans are unique. We're everywhere. We're all over this country, and just hang in there. It's gonna happen. This team will win a Super Bowl. This franchise will win a Super Bowl. Ownership is in place. The right kind of ownership is in place. The right resources are in place. And this team will win a Super Bowl, and it'll happen. And I'm telling you, it's going to happen in a year when no one really expects it.
Well, you can't close any better than that. And for the fans listening, don't forget, folks, to turn down the sound on your TV on Sundays during the season and turn up KFAN's Minnesota Viking broadcast here, Pete Bercich, throughout the entire season as the Vikings make their run to the Super Bowl in New York. So again, thanks, Pete.
And let me apologize for the delay in advance because it's tricky. But give it a shot.
Sounds good. I appreciate it, Pete.
All right, take care.
All right.